You're listening to the Joel Martin Mastery Podcast, your source of music news, stories, and 2-hour deep dive interviews with bands that have sold over 150 million albums. If you've been enjoying the podcast, please take a moment to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Now let's dive in to today's episode. Welcome to the Joel Martin Mastery Podcast. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. We are joined by a very special guest. She's achieved a level of mastery as a Juno-nominated singer-songwriter, as well as a former member of the multi-million selling band Cradle of Filth. So welcome to the podcast, Lindsay Schoolcraft. Lindsay, how are you? And is it true that you have a mild obsession with Disney animated movies?
I'm good now that you asked that question. I'm good. I'm okay. I'm just getting through this summer. Currently moved to Hamilton. Been here a year. I love it here, so it's been good. But yeah, no, I do. I'm a Disney kid, or I guess they call them Disney adults now. It's like a Disney adult, but I'm not like one of those Disney adults that has Disney stuff all over my apartment or is going to Disneyland every year. You just kind of go with what you know, and I grew up on them. So I think there's going to be a lot of Disney themes brought up through the journey of this interview, I'm sure, about my love of Disney movies, the animated movies, and how they've shaped me.
So you like to keep your Disney obsession a little quiet, a little hidden.
In my head, yeah, sure. And it's kind of the unfortunate thing of like one little thing where it will trigger a memory or idea, and then I have like Under the Sea from The Little Mermaid stuck in my head all day. So yeah, it just kind of stays encased in my skull, so to say.
So I'm assuming this started as a kid. You got into Disney movies, and it's the soundtracks that really attracted you.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was born in '86, but I'm a '90s kid, right? Like, those first 4 years of my life are kind of, everything was very, like, brown and, you know, monochromatic in the beige sense. And then the '90s came in, and the '90s were really colorful and boisterous, and there were so many amazing things about that decade. So, back in the day of like VHS rentals, that's what my parents would do. We go to the VHS rental store, and it wasn't just Disney. It was also like The Last Unicorn. It was like the Don Bluth animated movies. There were so many, even though Disney was like top of the game back then, there was like kind of like, you like underground subgenres of music. Same thing. There's like underground subgenres of like animated films, not always all musical. But the Disney stuff, because they were just master marketers, there would be so much hype around the movies. And they even brought back like 101 Dalmatians from the '70s and made big hype around it in the '90s again, which I think was brilliant after studying marketing. So yeah, like they knew how to make that magic. And yeah, I was always excited for the next Disney film. Always. Like throughout the '90s, I'd like beg my parents to take me to the theaters, and I'd want the themed birthday parties and the t-shirts and the merchandise. That's changed these days, obviously. But yeah, it was an experience for sure.
Let's be honest, if for your next birthday someone showed up with a Disney cake, you'd be pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I was stoked. I wouldn't want to eat it. Just take a million pictures of it.
And the 90s were the golden age of the Disney animated movies. I remember they had a 3-movie run that was, I think it was like The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, and maybe Aladdin. There was 3 like of their all-time classics in a row, and you're like, okay, we can't stop this company at this point.
Yeah, it was Beauty and the Beast. And I know this for some reason, chronologically, because I can remember by age and what grade of school I was in. Beauty and the Beast was like, I think, the big blow up at the beginning of the '90s. I want to say '92, '93, and then they brought back 101 Dalmatians. And
Lion
then
King
it
was
was
95. I don't know how I know that, but
yeah, I think it was, I can't remember if it was Aladdin or Lion King first. I feel like it was the Lion King first. But Lion King was huge. That's to this day my favorite Disney movie, like hands down. Love The Lion King. And then I don't remember really what came after that, but I feel like it went from like every 2 years to like every year. And then like in the early 2000s, it just kind of, they got into CGI and computer animation, and it just kind of, that whole hype like bunked out until Frozen happened, right? We all know about Frozen. We don't need to go there.
I have two
Those songs are
nieces,
way
so
too
I
catchy.
unfortunately know all too well about Frozen and
Oh, I'm
Frozen
so
2 and everything related to
sorry.
that. I have two very embarrassing confessions about Disney movies. Are you ready for these?
Please. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Go ahead.
Okay, so number one is I cry every time Mufasa dies in The Lion King. Spoiler for anyone that's like 30 years late on this. And if you think, okay, there can't be anything more embarrassing than a grown man crying during the Lion King animated movie, but here's the one up. When I was a kid, my family took us to see The Little Mermaid, and I got so scared of Ursula, I made us leave during The Little Mermaid. So that's the one movie that was too scary for me in my entire life that I couldn't get through The Little Mermaid.
That's fair. I rewatched it recently. I do this thing every Sunday morning. My partner works late, so he sleeps in Sunday morning, and I have the morning to myself. I've just been rewatching Disney movies. And I rewatched The Little Mermaid like last month, and I was like, man, like I have a love-hate relationship first and foremost because I like the Hans Christian Andersen version better. I like the darker forms of fairy tales. I have printed Grimm's fairy tale books all over my house. So I have a love-hate relationship because I would say even though Disney commercialized it and had a happy ending the way they did, and they made it so colorful and boisterous, it's just you can't help but love it. But Ursula, who was inspired by I want to say it was Danny Devine. Oh my God, I hope I didn't get that. Oh God, I hope I got the name right. But I want to say one of the OG drag queens is yeah, like it's Ursula is spooky and her eels and like her being like a sea witch and like what she does, like any little kid would be terrified of that character. It's just like, oh God, why is it like look kind of like grandma but also like have these like massive tentacles? It's a lot. It's
Well, I
it's a lot.
appreciate you making me feel better about that embarrassing moment. I have one final question about Disney and then we'll move on. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts on all the live action remakes that they've been doing every year or two? A lot of them have been very good. There's been a few duds. What do you think? Is it just a total cash in, which works? Each movie makes about $1 billion with the remakes. But what do you think for the quality, I guess, compared to the original?
Oh God, I have opinions. The only two I've seen, and I was like, this is enough for me, was the Beauty and the Beast remake, which just had extra unnecessary, boring, mediocre songs that were completely forgettable, but it was cool to see. And then the one I did watch, which my other Disney adult friend and I argue about to this day, was the Mulan remake, which like I really loved. I love Mulan. Actually, that's my sister's favorite. She actually like wore the VHS out to like it just didn't work anymore and it was broken. I liked the remake so much. I thought it was great, but I've also another side thing. I've really gotten into like fantasy soap operas coming out of China. So like I was just like, this is sick. Uh, but I have not seen The Lion King. I will not go see The Lion King. My buddy Richard Shaw, who we used to be in Cradle of Filth together, we're both Disney adults, and I trust his opinion. He texted me after he went to see the live action Lion King, and he's like, "You don't, you don't need to, like, don't." And I'm like, okay. So I do think like it is like all these remakes. I would just love to see people trying, even if they were failing, to create their own stories, their own new unique stories. Like even if, like not everyone's going to be a hit and there's tons. Like I have the books, there's tons of Grimm's fairy tales that have not been touched on yet. They're just doing all these like recreations. Like yeah, probably a money grab. Like I don't know. I feel like certain Disney classics don't need to be remade in the real life versions. I think it's just so silly. I like to have the cartoon versions in my head. Way more impactful. But I'm an elder millennial. Like, what do I know? I'm bitter and old, mad at the world. So
Like the rest of us. The only thing I'll say
yeah.
about the live action remake of the Lion King movies, because they made another one, right? There's like a Mufasa, not Mufasa, a Simba
Oh God, I
sequel.
forgot about that.
But the only good thing I'll say, I thought they were pretty good, but the one thing that really stands out is I saw them in, with the 3D technology or an IMAX or both or whatever. And Man, that technology is wild. The depth perception is crazy, and the graphics look so good that you forget that it's animated. You feel like you're
Yeah,
watching one of those Planet Earth videos with real animals, except they're talking, and you're kind of like, okay,
so
this
weird.
is real footage, but they're talking, so your mind
It's
kind
like
of doesn't know what's going
uncanny.
on.
Yeah, uncanny valley, That's why maybe I don't want to watch them.
We're going to do a full 2 hour deep dive interview. We're going to cover your
Oh
entire
boy.
life, your career, your discography. We have a lot to get to, but we need to get started all the way at the beginning. So, where does this love of music come from? Is there an earliest musical memory? And is the Disney stuff the earliest music stuff you can remember, or are there other things that come before that?
It's such a weird upbringing because you have like so many influences, you have two sets of grandparents, you have your parents, you have obviously the 90s and Disney movies. I mean, I think I've just always loved music from a young age, but I was really lucky because I was raised in a household where I was exposed to so much. Like my dad is a musician. He sings and he plays guitar really well, and he raised me on like Johnny Cash and the Beatles and the Eagles. Like there's a bit of like this country upbringing, but my mom, she really loves top 40 and she loves pop music, and like what was influential on her was like things of the 60s and 70s and 80s. So there'd be also like a lot of Cher and ABBA and Bee Gees at home, but then my mom's parents who came from Romania but like had a lot of Germanic ties. There'd be unfortunately a lot of Schlager. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's like this Umpapa German music that like it's old folk music. It's very happy and upbeat, and they just like loved it and played it all the time. And I was just like, I can't I can't get into this probably because I have no idea what they're saying. But yeah, so it's just like there was just this rich influence of music growing up, and I always like anything my parents were playing for me. They said you'd just sit there and you'd be in it and you'd really digest it and like think about it and feel it. And I guess, some people are just more sensitive to sound and how they perceive it. So yeah, I don't know. It's just such a potpourri growing up with music, and I don't even know like what it was, but it makes you feel, it listening to music in any form, whether you're watching a Disney movie or, you're listening to the Bee Gees, it makes you feel something. And I think I love that. I'm a very deeply emotional person. And when I can find something on the outside that describes how I'm feeling on the inside, I think that's self-discovery, but also like feeling like you belong. So I think that would be like the underlying like theme to all of this.
At what point did you go from enjoying music, being a lover of music, to actually becoming a musician and playing an instrument? So I think of you as a singer, a harpist, pianist, but was guitar your first instrument?
Yeah, my dad tried to teach me when I was really young, but I just was not getting it. I also think it's because he was teaching me on one of those like really crappy acoustic guitars where like the strings are too high off the frets and you're just getting these awful calluses and you're like this isn't fun. I don't enjoy this. And then in my childhood there was piano lessons, but I didn't have the right teacher. I wanted to learn just enough to create my own stuff, and she just wanted me to be like this like prodigy conservatory trained piano player, and I'm like, no, like I'm doing this because like I have my own ideas in my head and I want to get them out. I think this is around the age of 8, and it just, she's just slamming all the theory and the sheet music and the classical stuff down our throats, and we're like, oh god damn it. So um it really didn't happen until like I became a teenager, and I just kind of knew. I was like, I have so many ideas inside of me. If I don't like pick up an instrument and start putting them out there, I think I'm gonna go insane. So I think it was just like a tipping point of like I have to start doing this or I'm gonna lose my mind. And also I knew from a very young age, like if I don't do this, I'm going to regret it. I'm gonna be that old bitter lady that nobody wants to be around. So I better start doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my life, right? So yeah, it was like a kind of an overflow. It was weird though, because it started with the bass guitar. Like I could play guitar, but not well. I still can't. But like the bass guitar was like, as you can see, I have mine here with me. That was like my first like instrument that I really dived into and used as like a foundation for writing all my songs, which is weird. Who does that?
And then the harp, the singing, the songwriting that came later. How does one
Yeah.
start playing the harp? That's my real question here.
It was it's probably because of the Little Mermaid. No,
Hmm.
I think it was like my quarter life crisis. Like we're going way ahead now, but I didn't start playing harp until my mid 20s and I was in university and I was saving money and as you know, we'll get into it later why I left university, but for my third year, I had to sign up super in advance for like this folk music class and to be part of like the small ensemble for folk music. And they're like, well, if you want to be our harpist, like you need to get a harp and you need to start figuring it out. So I went ahead and got my harp, but I saved up for it for a long time. But I think it was just like, part of my heritage is being Irish and Scottish. And I think that was just like, it was just this longing and this calling, and it's such a beautiful instrument. Um, Blending it into heavy metal has been a challenge, but that's a topic for another time. But it was just kind of like you have to follow these weird little urges and callings. So yeah, it happened way later, and it was definitely my stupid ass, like most people who play piano and want to learn harp, just assumed it would be like the piano. It's nothing. It's kind of like playing this weird bow and arrow. I don't know how to explain it. But yeah, that was a strange directional change in my 20s were very transformative too. Like every decade there's like huge transformations.
And did playing stringed instruments like the bass and guitar, does that actually help with the harp? Does it make it feel somewhat familiar?
It was strange. I had a small brief few years where I played the cello and the bass guitar helped me transition to the cello. Um the problem is I didn't have the money in place to get lessons and further my technique, so I gave up on the cello pretty quickly, but I sold my cello to get my harp, right? But I don't know, I just have this affinity for any like type of stringed instrument, like piano, harp, bass, string, obviously, like, violin, cello, things like that. It's like anything that is like string based, which is really interesting, has always just kind of been my thing. Like I've definitely been eyeing the Chinese like I forgot, I can't even pronounce it properly, but the Chinese like hammered harp is like something, or plug. It's not hammered, it's plucked. And I'm like, that's something I'd really love to learn, but I'm like, where do I have the time and $600? I don't know. Grab one off of Marketplace. I don't know. It's just like certain like, I know some people who just love um brass and woodwind instruments, and I'm like, that's not my jam. Do not put that in my music. And they're just like, and I know there were certain classical composers who were like, I hate woodwind. Do not put that in my music. So it's what you resonate with. It's certain frequencies, I think, really.
And when you were first learning instruments as a kid or as a teenager, who were the musicians that you looked to as influences that you saw them and you said, wow, if I dedicate my life to this, if I really work at my craft, those are the pinnacle of instruments. That's who I look up to.
It's really strange because my first, like, it all happened in high school, and my first 2 years, the first like bit of grade nine, I was really into like early 2000 EDM. Like when we had Electric Circus on Much Music, like I'd tune in on the weekend and watch that. Like the dance moves were horrible, the outfits were questionable, but the music was really cool. And I think that's because the summer before that, I actually spent it in Germany reconnecting with like my family and my roots there. And like, Darude's Sandstorm had just blown up in Germany. So like you can turn on any channel in Germany and it was all like EDM and house. Like this is 2000, the year 2000. So that influenced me going in high school, but high school is it's such a crazy time. There's so many turning points. And then that's when it struck me like, oh man, I like the Josie and the Pussycats movie is what did me in, but at the same time, there was this influence of like punk rock, like really heavy punk music, but the lighter pop punk stuff, even some of the emo stuff coming out at the time. So this would have been 2001, 2002. So like I am building up to a point. Like there's a point here. It was just so eclectic, but the moment like that really kind of changed everything for me was bands like Kitty, Linkin Park, and Evanescence because like that was just like it just hit me in such a way like I had that teen angst at the time that I really couldn't work through. I was very angry at the world. I was very quickly becoming aware of misogyny because I did grow up in a Roman Catholic school system. And there were certain things that like women were told they could and couldn't do, but the guys could just do whatever the hell they wanted. And I'm like, this is backwards. So that music helped me digest and deal with that. And especially getting it from the feminine perspective of like from the girls in Kitty and from Amy Lee and Evanescence, that was huge for me. It's like, oh man, that these are women that they understand me, even though we don't, well, we know each other now, but we didn't know each other then. Um, they understand me on like this level that I don't feel seen or heard or understood anywhere else. So then they like Katie was the blueprint for a lot of my bands moving forward, and like Amy Lee has always kind of been my, especially the music she made back in the early 2000s was my North Star for like I've got to be, an equipped um I guess like well-trained classical musician. I need to really take my songwriting and poetry seriously. So that was kind of like those two bands had the biggest influence on me at the time. Like there was other bits and pieces, you go through phases. You have your grunge phase, and I really loved Hole, and then like there was just it was cool. It was really cool at the time because early 2000s, so much of the 90s was recycled during that time. Like I remember the guy I dated, like we really got into like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden, even though like that time had passed, we're like, well, we're big music fans, so like we're willing to listen to anything. It was high school was a really, really cool time, but yeah. And then the second half of high school was like super interesting because I finally formed my first band and I was kind of learning all the what to do and what not to do of being in a band at a very young age.
I always think of Dashboard Confessional and My Chemical Romance. Am I far off with emo?
No, that's right. I really liked My Chemical Romance, really like the Used. Um I'm trying to think if there's any. I mean, I remember when Dashboard had that big hit. I can't think of anything else. I really emo was just a little bit past when I left high school, so I really did. That was like the generation after that. Do you know what I mean? And I have friends who are like 4 years younger than me, and they're like purely emo kids. It's great.
A few interviews ago, I had Paul McCoy from 12 Stone. So he's the male
Mm,
Wake Me Up vocal on Evanescence's massive hit, Bring Me to Life. So I got to hear his perspective behind the scenes of how he ended up on that song. And there's a huge story. So they're label mates on Wind Up Records, 12 Stones and
yeah.
Evanescence. And just the label called him in one day and was like, oh, there's this Evanescence band we just signed. Like, we haven't done anything with them yet. Here's a demo of Bring Me to Life. And at that time, the biggest thing on radio was the rap rock with Linkin Park, with Papa Roach, with
Yeah.
Limp Bizkit. And they said, we want to put a male kind of rap voice on it. And he just joking, like they weren't a big band yet, just joking goes, well, if you can't find anyone famous, I'll do it. And a few weeks later, he got a call saying, oh, we decided we want you on the song. You're leaving tonight to record it. Like it was, they told him, he got on a flight, he recorded in an hour and a half. That was it. And it
Wild.
went on to sell 17 million copies of that album and launch a 40 million album career of Evanescence. So I got to hear the behind the scenes on that from Paul, which is awesome. And also, Evanescence was founded by Amy Lee and Ben Moody, the guitarist and singer-songwriter. And I've been talking with him and he's coming up as a guest. So I got all
That's
these Evanescence
exciting.
connections that I love. And maybe someday Amy Lee. That would be a dream come true.
Well, hey, like, listen, in my eyes, she's a female music producer, and what she did on The Open Door, I have that tattooed on me. It's my favorite album ever, was magnificent. That's my North Star as an album. And it's not the favorite of the fan base, but she really put her heart and soul, like blood, sweat, and tears into that album. And the 20th anniversary, I believe, is next year. So if you can grab her for the 20th anniversary of the album that like she produced, That would be a sick conversation. I would pull up for that.
So I think the debut album Fallen was basically what she had to provide to the label as an unknown band that got signed. And
Yeah.
it worked because it's one of the biggest albums of all time. And then I feel like Open Door was like, okay, I gave you what you wanted. Now I have some leeway. This is the album I wanted to make. So after that
Yeah.
song, Bring Me to Life, there's no more male vocal, no more rap rock. It's like,
No.
this is actually what Amy Lee, her vision is for this band.
It was sick because it was such a mature, in my opinion, it was like a very mature sounding version of their demo, like their album before Fallen, which was Origin, which in my opinion is like the heaviest trip hop album to ever exist. I love Origin. But yeah, what she did with that, like it came out and, I think a lot of people wanted more of the same with Fallen, but like I was like, this is brilliant. Like this album is fantastic. There's no feedback, no corrections, no opinions. Yeah, no, that is definitely what happened at that time, for sure.
You grew up in Oshawa, I believe. In which ways do you think Oshawa shaped you as a person and later on as a musician?
So, okay, this is there's three parts to this. I was born in Ajax, and the neighborhood that I was born in produced Sum 41 and Not by Choice, so pop punk. Dave's mom, Dave Brown Sound, his mom used to babysit me before, up until the age of 3. So like weird connections. And my next door neighbor, Matt, went on to be Avril Lavigne's drummer for like her big blow up era with Let Go. So there was something in the water, like there was some strange energetic fault line in that area that just like birthed these creatives that were, I guess, like I don't want to say good enough because that's not the word I'm looking for, but like they had that prospect of the future of being like really successful musicians. I lived there until I was about 3, 4, and then we moved to North Whitby. And that's where I spent a good 20 plus years of my life. I don't know, my parents would know the exact timeline, but that's like where I grew up. Like I want my ashes to be scattered there. There's something beautiful about that place because it's imprinted. You know what I mean? It's very imprinted on me. But when I was in high school and in my 20s and so on and so forth, Oshawa had a music scene. It still kind of does to this day. And that was where like I was nurtured and I guess grew up on the stage and there was a support there. There was a local support, local venues that were like really into young people doing music, even if they weren't that good. They had to get on a stage and they had to be somewhere and they had to develop themselves. So it's kind of like this three-part thing of like I always felt like I was from Oshawa because so much of my music was performed and written there, even though I did live in North Whitby most of my life, right? So it's strange. It's like I always say, yeah, I am from Oshawa because like creatively that's what built me, I guess. I'm very lost for words today. I apologize. I wish I could use bigger words. Maybe it's good I don't because I'll probably use them out of context and say them wrong, but it's where I was grown like a little flower. About that.
Before we started recording, you used a word that I thought was pretty awesome. You were saying, if you have a kitten and if the kitten makes noise, your partner will have to come and take the kitten away. What was the word you used? It started with an
Oh,
E.
quell.
Quell. Yeah. So anyone that can say quell in a sentence gets a automatic get out of jail free for a 2-hour interview.
Sick. I swear I'm really smart. Just some days the brain don't work.
The brain don't work good. So I have some kind words sent in here from someone that is familiar with Oshawa and that references you growing up in different small cities. So this is from Daryl Hers, who's a part of Indie Week, CD Baby.
I love Daryl.
This is what Daryl says. He says, I first met Lindsay when I was working with a band called The Rabbit Hole, and she was coming to shows at the Bovine. I found out more about her as a musician and being more on the classical side. Then later, all of a sudden, I see she's touring the world with a huge band. It just shows that if someone puts all their efforts in, they can make it. She's an inspiration to others coming from a small city outside of Toronto and focused on a genre that is more niche and still being able to tour the world. That's inspiring, and I bet she has a lot of great stories to tell. So that's from Daryl.
Oh, Daryl. I love that guy. Thanks, dude. Yeah, full of stories for sure. That means a lot.
And as a kid, before knowing that you wanted to become a professional musician, was there anything else that you wanted to be? Some people want to be a firefighter or a truck driver or a ballet dancer. Anything come to mind for you?
Oh, I definitely wanted to be a zoologist. So many kids with their Lisa Frank binders wanted to be marine biologists. It was just a thing. But I do obviously I really love animals. I have rescue cats and I'm a vegan, not as like loud on the animal rights front anymore these days because I'm really trying to preserve my energy to make new music. Um, but it was just something that it's a long story, dude. You are really like deep diving here.
This is why
I
we have
did
we have 2 hours, so we can actually get into the good
yeah.
stuff.
The story is like, yeah, I thought I was gonna be a zoologist. Like the other day, for example, my guitarist Cody sends me a video of a clouded leopard hugging his zookeeper, and I just like went off on all the facts of like how endangered this animal is and where the first one was born in captivity and how they're trying to repopulate it. And he's like, what the hell just happened? And it's because I know so much about animals, but I didn't find this out till later. The high school I went to marked really, really hard, which like explains why I struggled. And I went into high school in the academic stream, but it was so hard and it just affected, like, that was my first real battle with mental health, like at 14. And I was struggling and it was just so stressful. And, with the ADHD mind, I was just like really having a hard time balancing everything and staying on top of it, especially like it's all from books and regurgitating from chalkboards. And I am very much like an audio visual learner. So it was hard. So I I had to go into the applied stream, which is college stream, and I was doing fine. And then I asked to move back up, and I had this like one guidance counselor. I hope I never run into her. It was a Friday. She clearly wanted to go home. And I said, like, listen, I've gotten therapy, I've gotten medication. It was more hormonal therapy. It wasn't anything hard. Um, I'm ready to go back into the academic stream. I do really want to become a zoologist. And she just turned to me and said, I don't think you can do it. And I was just like, it was one of the saddest things I think that ever happened to me. And like, I wouldn't have ended up there anyways. But then it just kind of made me, it's like that moment in life where you're at a fork in the road and you're like, you were just bumped off into the other lane. Like you couldn't go down that lane. Um, so because of that, I was like, well, I'm good at art. Maybe I'll become an artist or like a visual art, like, an artist or a tattoo artist or I was humming and hawing between fashion. I was in the school's there's like I guess it was called sewing class. It was like fashion 101. I don't know. You made your own pants. Um but then it was kind of like I was hanging out with a friend and we were watching a Blink 182 DVD and I like saw Tom and Mark and Travis on stage and I was like, "Oh my God, I always have song ideas. I'm such a big lover of music. I think that's it." And that was it. But it was like there was some humming and hawing between careers. And the thing is because I came from such like a I don't want to say conservative because my family's not conservative, but like old-fashioned family. Like I was raised by boomers, let's be real. They're very much like, music is not stable. It's not a stable career path. It's not a stable industry, which it is not. And I know that now, 25 years
They
later.
weren't
But my
wrong.
parent, no, no, and it changes like a chameleon every few months, every day. And there's like you need a backup plan. So because I did have like all of this like biology background with studying to be a zoologist, they're like, well, why don't you look into like being a veterinary assistant? So I did go to college to be a vet assistant, a zookeeper, and a dog groomer. That certificate is somewhere in this apartment. But I only used it here and there throughout my 20s. I mean, I was top of my class. I got it with honors. Like it was super easy for me, but it wasn't what I was passionate about. It's like, okay, well, this is just here just in case, the music thing doesn't work out. But I was very much like, no, like the music thing is going to work out for me. I've decided this. I've said so. And there's no backup plan. And when you do that, then you don't need a backup plan because you're like, no, I'm making this thing work. So yeah, I've had in my 20s, I've had whole where there's a whole list. Like I used to teach guitar, I used to walk dogs, barista, like did the coffee shop thing for a while. Veterinary assistant. Everyone calls me when their cat or dog is sick, so maybe they can avoid a vet visit. But most of the time, I'm like, please go to your vet because that can turn into something I don't know. But I'm that person in my friend circle. What else did I do? Yeah, I even have a weird side job like today too. But it's like it's all music related these days, but everyone has these weird backstories of like things they did before music was their full time. So yeah, even makeup artist, I completely forgot about that. Those 3 years of my life, that was really intense. And the thing is like everyone goes into makeup thinking they're going to be a makeup artist, but you always come out as a skincare expert.
Is that where the money is? Why do people make that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because like if you don't have good skin, your makeup looks like crap. Like you have to know
So
how to
we'll
like
start with
paint
the
the
skin and
canvas.
then we have a foundation to build on.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, no, I have a massive resume and I could jump back into any one of those fields if I wanted to, but I absolutely do not want to.
So do you think that moment with the guidance counselor was so hard also because one, it's like you're getting labeled where, oh, there's the smart people and then there's you. And then also
Yeah.
that it instills self-limiting beliefs in you maybe for the first time in your life that, oh, maybe I can't do everything I set my mind to.
Well, and that was the issue with the Roman Catholic school system. It was always just like no, no, no. Like you don't pursue a career path. You're just going to get married and have kids. Don't get educated. You can't do this. You're not smart enough. You have like, and it was just always like you can't. And I'm like, okay, but like you don't tell the guys in school that like you're just telling me because like I know I wasn't like the whole idea of the school system where it's like you can't judge a fish by how well it climbs a tree. I think that was an Einstein quote. Could be wrong. But like that's how I felt in the school system. I just felt like a fish out of water. And I'm like, I know I'm talented. I know I have ideas. I know that like, I want to live life in such a colorful, vibrant, creative way. But this school system is not meant for someone like me. So, years later through therapy, I did find out like you're ADHD, you're gifted. And no one recognized that and no one could help you with that. But yeah, that moment of just like it was just kind of like I never had some like how do I even explain it? Like you look up to people when you're younger because you're like, oh, you're an authority and you think they all are kind and caring and they want to guide you and they care about your well-being and what's best for you. And that was kind of like an earth-shattering moment of like someone just being like, I think you're dumb. And I'm just like, why are we here? And I've never ran into her to this day, thank God. It wouldn't end well for her, especially even she remembered me and said hi to me. I'd be like, I hope to God you're not working with kids anymore because, and that's the thing. I'm a true believer that everyone should do something they're passionate about because so many people get into jobs just to make a paycheck and they're not a good fit, especially if you're working with kids and teenagers. Like you have to really love kids and teenagers to want to work with them because they like, God, puberty is hard,
I mean,
So like
but who really loves kids and teenagers? I mean,
not I, says the child-free person.
yeah.
They're hard. They're a lot of work. You have to really want to be a parent, And I love that our generation is just like, you know what? Nah.
So if we were friends when you were 16 and you invited me over to your place to listen to some music, what albums would you have in rotation?
Okay, so the two Linkin Park albums, Hybrid Theory and what's the one
Meteora?
that came after? Yes, thank you. Such a good album. Those. Uh, I don't know if it was. I'm pretty sure it was out by this point, but like Korn's Untouchables. Uh, the one good album from Hole, which is just like escaping me right now. So many people said Kurt Cobain wrote it.
What,
Um,
Living Through This, something like that?
I think
Living
I
Through
think it has the
This?
chick on the front that looks like Carrie,
Yeah.
like she's at prom and crying. Um, what else would we be listening to? I mean, Fallen by Evanescence all day, every day, baby. Uh, Kitty's Spit, Kitty's Oracle. What else would we be listening to? Biff Naked in there for sure, somewhere. Why not? And I'm trying to think of anything else. Yeah, but there'd also be some weird ones. Be like, yeah, like let's just like listen to some lighthearted stuff and like listen to like Newfound Glory or Green Day or um Sarah McLachlan if we're feeling really sad.
Yeah, surfacing or
Oh my God.
stumbling on ecstasy, something like that. Those are
Fumbling,
fumbling on
fumbling
ecstasy.
through excess. Yeah, words escape me. Yeah, it would be like a real mix. Like I always admire like Canadian singer-songwriters like, Loriana McKennitt and Jan Arden. Like I love them. They raised me too as a songwriter. But yeah, that would be like it'd be a good blend of like new metal and then pop punk and then just like female singer-songwriters. Why not?
I don't want to brag or anything, but I've seen Sarah McLachlan in concert 3 times, including this Canada Day that just passed. And she's coming back in November to play the arena here by my house, the Ottawa Senators Arena. And I was able to interview their drummer, Matt, a few months ago. So I get to hang out with Matt a little bit at the show. So don't want to brag, but I might,
Humble brag.
I might actually be a big Sarah McLachlan fan.
I didn't really fully appreciate her until my 20s, but like, damn, what a voice, what a songwriter. I did see her live with the orchestra at the Bud stage years ago. I feel like this is over 10 years ago, and that was such a cool experience. That was like the moment of like, I really need to bring my songs to the strings. Like, it was just wild. So, yeah, she's brilliant.
What's the first concert you ever attended? Can you remember? Sometimes you're dragged there by a parent, but then sometimes there's the first one that you chose that you were really excited about.
So, one that my parents dragged me to would be Sharon, Lois, and Bram. Uh, Because, like, let's be real, they were huge back in the day, kids' music. No, that was God. I can't believe I even remembered that. Like, that's, something to do with kids and family. Man, they were the best. No, it would be in high school because it was going to a concert back then was such a big deal with the lack of technology and communication. Like, your kid is going to the big city hour and a bit away and you have no way of contacting them and you just hope to God they're okay and they make it home safely, right? So the first one I went to, I want to say it was at the end of grade 9, was the Ataris when they had that big
The
cover song
cover, yeah.
out.
Boys of
Yes.
Summer.
Yes. Yeah. It was really cool. It's like they ended the show with like confetti. They closed with that song. Um, One of the girls I went to high school with, she ended up on stage. This is a great story. She ended up on stage and she was about to crowd surf, like dive into the crowd. She got so scared she passed out and they had to like pull her off of stage. Poor Kim. I'll never forget that. I was just like, she tried, like, good job, kiddo. You tried. We were all like 14, 15. We were so little. The opening acts were Sugar Cult, which I was a big fan of at the time. And then there's Rufio and Autopilot Off. It was like underground pop punk at the time. But that was like my first concert. And then I think not long after that, it was like the Salads and oh my God, whatever the heck whatever they were before Cauterized, and there was some other weird band opening too. I want to say it was not. I want to say they were all opening for Not by Choice. I have to go back through a shoebox and find that ticket from Ticketmaster. But this would have been like 2001, 2002, so it's been a hot minute. But yeah, like those are the first two concert memories I really like. They stick with me.
So I way back in the day, so I played in a band and I released albums. I did all that jazz, and
Mhm.
I organized a show in Ottawa at Barrymore's, which is like a legendary venue here that like John Mayer's played at and U2 and all these bands. So we were playing a legit like 500 seater. And I was like, okay, we need a headliner. Like we're not quite that big to just play it on our own. So I reached out to Darren Pfeiffer, the drummer from Goldfinger and the Salads and Not by Choice. He's played with all these bands. And he was managing artists, and I said, hey, look, this is our budget for a headliner. Is there any band that you represent that could play? And we ended up having Cauterize as the headliner just to tie this together to your story. So
Crazy. Yeah, they were everywhere back in the day. I think they also Did they go under the Wind Up umbrella too? Like, there's so much lore around that label that doesn't exist anymore, but it was all very interconnected.
So let's dive into your professional music career now. Let's go through your discography. So it starts with Mary and the Black Lamb. This is
Right.
2009 that you released the album As the City Sleeps. Can you dive into the history of that band? This was like the first big project that caught attention that led to other things. And how did you meet the other members? Where did the idea of starting a band together come from?
Oh man. Well, there was like one part of the history we skipped, but I was in a previous pop punk band called Princess Riot. We were an all-girl punk band, but like we never got to the point of like we played everywhere, we played Warped Tour, but we never actually got a chance to properly record and release our music. Anything that ever existed was like really crummy demos. Like we tried our best. But yeah, I that had disbanded because we all just were going separate ways in life and wanted to do different styles of music. So we disbanded and I kept some of the songs that were mine because I thought they were pretty cool. And I wanted to go in a darker rock direction. And at the time, things that were really driving me and fueling me were like obviously Evanescence and that Open Door era, but also like A Perfect Circle and The Birthday Massacre. Um, so I was like, okay, I need musicians, well, who are like local musicians that like I really admire and I get along with. And I pretty much took most of the members of a local band called Hydra, which were very a perfect circle. And I wanted to make music with them. And then we started like writing songs and we started gigging around. And then we had met some producers and writers that like thought the project was really sick and wanted to work together. And we went ahead with them. So that's how As the City Sleeps came to be. Mary and the Black Lamb did have like a very short timeline. It was only active, I think, for like 4 years. But we did do quite a bit during that time. So it was crazy. I was like with Princess Riot, I was learning how to be in a band. And then with Mary and the Black Lamb, I was learning how to put your band out there.
And you
Is the
actually
best way to put
released
it.
something, which is good.
Which is crazy. Yeah, that was a huge moment in time for sure.
And what opportunities presented themselves once you actually had something out there? You had an album. It was like a business card where instead of you having to somehow explain to people that you guys are good, that you have good music, that a venue should accept you, that management should take you on, you could actually show, hey, look, this is undeniable. This is awesome. Let's work together.
It was crazy too because it was during a time of like the last glory years of MySpace, which was huge for music. But it was also at the beginning times of the internet where we had like Reverb Nation and Facebook was starting up. And because I had something to show, I had a means to connect, not just with fans. And, it went so far. It went all over the world. It went to Russia. It went to Europe. It went everywhere. I still talk to some of these people to this day, but it really helped us build community, especially in the Canadian like goth rock, goth metal scene. And I really formed this strong, like the bands between us and Dataline Complex, which are just such a cool goth industrial band at the time. They're a little more black metal these days, as far as I can tell. It really like we formed a bond. It was the first time like we did like a double headlining tour in Eastern Europe. Like it changed everything. It really showed me it's like, okay, once you write, produce, record, put your music out there, it really helps you connect with other people because like, you can be this really awesome band that plays locally, but like if you don't have a recording to put out there, especially because it was the boom of the internet for music, you don't have that. Like you're just kind of hitting a ceiling in so many ways. So it was pretty crazy. And I think this is why the band demised because we actually did start getting some pretty big opportunities. But due to some of the people in the band changing their life priorities, which was like family, and that's completely fine, but there wasn't good communication in that regard. We lost a lot of opportunities. I think that band could have been a lot bigger if everyone was just on the same page and understood like communication and sacrifice. But there was a point I was getting to here. I mean, yeah, like in the last year, we were an active band. We opened for The Agonist when Elisa Whiteglass was fronting them, which is how we connected. Die Mannequin, rest in peace, Care. Kitty and the Birthday Massacre. Like it was a huge last year. And then, they were like choosing to build their families. And I was like, well, music doesn't stop here for me. Like I'm going to go to university and I'm going to become a solo artist because like I'm kind of fed up of the band with the band thing, so to say. But yeah, Mary and the Black Lamb was cool. It was a good experience. And like I look back on that album very proud of it. I worked my ass off. I was 21. I was a baby, you know?
What did it mean to you to open for Kitty after them being one of your influences to get started in music?
It was a blur. It was a very special night and it was very exciting. But I think the best part of it was for me was meeting the girls after and like realizing they're just so nice and we're all really good friends to this day. That was the best part. It's like,
Some good
be nice to
Canadian
people.
girls.
Yeah, like like, yeah, we all love cats. I mean, it ties into their band name. We all love cats. We all love heavy metal. We all have so much in common, but they're just like the nicest people. And what I like about them and them being in their position is they're so excited to see other women in metal doing anything, doing something, doing anything. Because there's just, during that time, I would say back in 2009, there wasn't a lot of us. There's, we're really taking over now, which is awesome. But yeah, so I have the poster somewhere. I should probably hang it up. But yeah, there's a big moment in time. It's very cool when you're like, you're a really young teenager and you're like, I want to open for all these bands. And then like all of a sudden you've opened for like every band you love and you're like, oh crap, now I got to make new dreams. Gotta go back to that teenage like wonder again and tell the universe what I want. But yeah, such a cool moment.
It's Manifestation 101, baby, right there.
Oh, you know it.
So, in preparation for this interview, I went back, I listened to your entire discography from Mary and the Black Lamb through all the solo albums, the Cradle of Filth albums. And when I started with the Mary and the Black Lamb album, as soon as I saw the cover, I was like, why does this look so familiar? And then when I listened to it, I knew all the songs. And I remembered that I actually owned that album from back when it was released. So
Crazy.
that's when you're saying, it opened all these doors and it did well. It made its way to me somehow. And I remember playing it. I remember the physical CD back when I had physical CDs. So I thought you'd get a kick out of that.
That's so wild. I didn't realize how far and wide it went at the time. There was such a big build up to releasing it. And then we had this massive release show in South Whitby, at the movie plaza there. I want to say at the time the venue was called Johnny B's. And like we filled a room, like it was our whole community. I think everyone in the band, their family and friends knew how important this night was for us because we'd worked so hard on this for so long. And yeah, I remember the sales that night, like the promoter was just like, I caramba, like I've never seen this much on door. And, the merch just flew off the table. I think we sold out of one of our shirts. Like it was insane, and it's like, but then that's kind of like where, we kind of stopped because they're like, well, we have to move this across Canada and into the States. And the members weren't on that level of getting there, unfortunately. But it was like I'm very, very proud of that time, and I'm very happy it happened, and it taught me a lot. It's where I realized, like, oh, I'm not just like a songwriter; I'm a producer too. So it's crazy that it reached you as well.
The album, it really holds up well. So it sounds great. The actual recording,
Thanks.
the songs themselves are great. When you look back at it now, or maybe listen to it now, sometimes people don't like to admit that they listen to their own music. Are you proud of that album even to today?
Yeah, because you know what? Like, I was just trying my best. Like, would I write songs like that way today? Definitely not. I'm just so grown so far past that as like what I want to compose. But like I look back at it and I'm just like, oh, I'm proud of 21-year-old me. Like that was a really good try. That was a really good. I think it really showed when it was done and I could listen to it and sit down and just enjoy it. I was like, I can't believe I did that. But if this is what I can do now, like what would the future hold?
Last question about Mary and the Black Lamb. What's the story behind the band name? There's no Mary in this band, is there?
No, everyone kept calling me Mary, and I thought that was hilarious.
Did you just
I
go
guess
with
just
it? You're like, yeah,
yeah, I
Mary.
was like, sure, I'm Mary, whatever. I think it had, it definitely had to do with the nursery rhyme and the whole Grimm's fairy tale, and we just, Mary had a little lamb. We're just like, well, what if like, Mary had a little black lamb because like the black sheep, because I think we all felt like black sheep in our families, and I think that's like where it came from, and we wanted to just contrast like the feminine and the masculine because the guitarist in the band, he would also like sing, which was super cool. We had a bit of a duet thing going on. Yeah, it was just a very like it was crazy. It was a very inspired by the moment and what we were into. And I remember I came up with it the first time I was actually listening to Bjork. When I was 20, I got the Vespertine album, and for some reason that sparked that name, just, sitting there and meditating on this amazing music that I never heard before. And there were some people in the business end, like we did get some attention from some pretty big music managers in Toronto at the time, and they all wanted us to change our band name. And we fought against it. We're like, no, like if people can learn how to say Evanescence, we can be Mary and the Black Lamb. Like, don't think that
Or
this is too
Red Hot
hard for
Chili
people.
Peppers or Rainbow Butt Monkeys.
Exactly.
So I
Crazy.
have I have some kind words sent in here from Carmen North, singer of Orbiting
Oh,
Death Ray and Firepower. And this is what
I love
Carmen
her.
says. Lindsay Schoolcraft is an icon in our music scene, an artist who deserves every bit of hype. It's impossible not to love and root for her. She's a true musician who's in it for all the right reasons. For someone who is so enjoyable to watch and listen to, she sure knows how to make people feel seen and heard. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's been taken aback by her kindness and warmth. Lindsay is a one of a kind talent, and I truly believe that she makes the world a better place. A deep dive into her catalog is highly, highly recommended by me. P.S. When I searched Lindsay on Spotify, Lindsay Schoolcraft was among the first names to come up. This is icon behavior. Much love. Heart emoji from Carmen North.
I love her. She's so sweet. I'm gonna cry now. That is so nice. That is so nice of her to say. She's just such a lovely person and such a force and talent herself. I don't know. I'm kind of speechless. That was not expected. Why you gotta do this to us, Joelle? Why do you gotta do this?
Hey, bring the Kleenex. We're going right for the feels with this interview. So let's dive into your solo career. So this is Lindsay Schoolcraft's solo career. This is going to be part one, and we're going to do a part two later on. Why was it
Sure.
important to you to become a solo artist and to own your own art?
Oh man, it's wild that you asked this question because I really didn't form the full right answer on this until recently, and I realized the reason I always said the reason I went solo is because I was just done with bands and being in a band, which is hilarious because I've been in so many other bands and to this day still participate in band shenanigans. Um, but really, I know I'm just a highly creative person with a lot of vision and a lot of input. And I don't like the idea of being in a band and then I put like 110% into this project. And then they can just kick me out and replace me. And there goes like all of my art. Like, I think it had to do with like ownership. Because my first real exposure to artists was visual artists. And like, no one can like, take Alphonse Muha and like take his art and kick him out and replace him and then have someone make all those incredible paintings and drawings that he did. So it was an ownership thing for sure. And I'm glad I did it because I didn't realize until later on. It's like, oh yeah, no, you're not just a singer-songwriter, lyricist, you're a multi-instrumentalist, you're a composer and arranger, you're a producer. And the idea that like, I know not every band is like this, and a lot of people have been blessed to be in bands where there's communication and love and it's treated like a family, but unfortunately, like a lot of my experience has been like hidden agendas and control and like threats to kick you out if you don't behave a certain way. So I was like, no, I need to be a solo artist for me. I need to own what I create because if I don't, it can just so easily be taken away from you, and that's not okay.
And where does the Schoolcraft name come from?
Oh, that's a good That's a good question. It comes from a part of my family because I don't think like my given birth last name is all that exciting. My dad's like crying listening to this right now. Sorry, Dad. But
We'll,
it
we'll
was
put
in the
we'll
family
put a
tree.
warning label saying "Dad, skip 10 seconds."
Yeah, sorry, Dad. Last name's mid. Uh well, it just I got bullied for it. Like it's Matheson and I got bullied for it in elementary school because I was really bad at math and everyone's like, "Well, it's in your last name, so like what's the problem here?"
Man, kids are the
Which is
worst.
they're horrible. That's why I don't have them. And I found it on a family tree and I just thought it was so cool. And at the time we thought it had First Nations ties and for the longest time we were trying to prove it. And then eventually we found out no, it's just like of Germanic origin. We don't have ties to the First Nation part of the family, but it just stuck. It just sounded really cool. And I was like, oh, it makes sense to me. And I did dive into, though there's like no direct relation, I did dive into the poetry of like Jane Johnston Schoolcraft, which is like the first published Native American poet. And I saw a lot of myself in her poetry. So that's part of the reason why it stuck.
So the first album that you released after breaking away from Mary and the Black Lamb was Rushing Through the Sky. This was came out in 2012. For our
Mhm.
loyal podcast listeners that just tune into every single episode, regardless of who the guest is, how do you describe your music to them? I know it's hard to put a label, it's hard to describe. Do your best. What do you think?
God, I mean, it's ethereal, it's emotional, it's got dark and light. It can really pull at your heartstrings. There's definitely that like early 2000s influence, whether it's the electronic music or the new metal, even the pop punk, depending on how you look at it. Um, but it's definitely something that you can really mellow out to. But I think you need to be like really a deep listener. I don't feel like it's something that you can like surface listen to. Like some of Beyonce's biggest hits. It's nothing like that.
How dare you? Queen
Sorry.
Bee, all the Queen Bee fans.
Well, I love Beyonce, don't get me wrong, but like I'm not gonna go listen to Beyonce to cry. Like it's music to cry to.
And what thoughts, memories, emotions come back to you when you think back to that debut solo album that has really kicked off this adventure you've been on since then?
I mean, it was the first time I was composing songs with my classical training. So I felt like I had a lot more to prove. I really played the crap out of those songs before I recorded them because they're all very piano ballad based and driven. Like, for those who haven't heard it or don't know, my first EP is not like a rock or metal album. It could easily be, and like one of the songs went on to be a heavy song later on. Um, but it was a maturing because I want to say I how old was I when we released it? I want to say 25. No, 26. It took a long time to make and release, but during that time it was just like, okay, like I know I want to make this music and I want to make it darker, but I don't like have a band. So there's nothing wrong with just like releasing this like mellowed out dark ballad album. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm glad I gave myself that permission because that's kind of what like kickstarted everything, as you said. But it had its time and its purpose. Like it's kind of like that first diary. Like you don't want to go back and look at it because it's kind of cringe, but I think every musician feels like that about their first band or their first album. So I'm still proud of it. I still think it's pretty cool. We had a lot of really great musicians, like guest people on there too. So
And for the 10th anniversary, the album got remixed, remastered, released on vinyl. You redid one of the songs, I believe. Why did you feel that was necessary for the 10-year anniversary?
well, I got a lot of complaints from my fan base that it wasn't on Spotify and they couldn't buy a physical copy. And I knew the 10th anniversary was coming up. It was very split decision at the time because I didn't realize it until like I had a month to prepare everything. Because this was back when it took like 10 months to order vinyl. There was like that during the pandemic, there's like that huge surgence of um everyone wanted vinyl, but there was a shortage of printing factories. So I think we had like that 10-month window, which was pretty brutal. But we made it happen. And then, I wanted to redo the album cover, which like a very talented photography friend of mine, Chris from Phantasma, he did some shots with like the the harp moon harp instrument, and I was like, this is the album cover 10,000%. So it was just time. It was more of like my fan base just being fed up that they couldn't have chapter one because I was like, no, it's so like not who I am anymore. But they're like, but we love it. And I'm like, okay, you can have it, fine.
And you printed a limited amount.
Yeah, yeah, there's only a few copies left right now on the shop, but yeah, just to keep it, you know, special.
You're referring to the great vinyl shortage of 2021.
That was great. That was so fun.
Man,
And in 2022, yeah, it was brutal.
yeah, during the pandemic, there was a shortage of everything. If you wanted to do house renovations, the whole world was trying to do house renovations, and
Couldn't do,
you
yeah.
couldn't find wood. The price of wood went up, I don't know, 10 times. They were tough times.
Yeah, those are the dark ages. Yeah.
The dark ages. So some of your songs, like the song Your Mind, have great harmonies. Has
Thanks.
hearing harmonies and singing harmonies always come easy to you, or is that something you had to work on?
No, I think as a composer, I have like main character syndrome. Like I can do the lead line of, the lead vocal melody. I can do the lead string melodies. I really haven't, I guess, dived into doing harmonies that much until like the past few years. Like I'd say like the past 5 years, I've really, really forced myself to understand harmony and write my own harmonies, not just as a singer, but also like for my string sections and even layering electronic parts if it needs it. So yeah, I didn't do well in choir. I always had to be the lead. Being a supportive melody, my brain just like can't figure it out. But it takes practice. It's definitely something I've struggled with, where some people can just jump in and be a backing vocalist and do harmonies, like no problem.
You have a lot of great ballads in your discography. Are you a sucker for a good ballad like I am?
Yeah, I like the sad, slow stuff. I always like the ballad. I usually like would dig a band for like the only slow song they have. The rest of this, I'm like, oh, it's all right. But like that slow song, like I just need a good cry.
Do you remember hearing your music on the radio for the first time? I don't know if it's Mary and the Black Lamb. I don't know if it's your solo career. I don't know if it's the Cradle of Filth albums.
Right, right. It was actually Mary and the Black Lamb on like the local our local radio station. I want to say 94.9 The Rock in Durham region. And it was just such a wild experience. And we even had people who never heard us before, like messaging us on MySpace and Facebook and being like, I just found your band. This is so cool. And I was like, wow, like that was intense. Now, did we get like heavy rotation? No, but I didn't get a chance to experience that again until Cradle of Filth's Hammer of the Witches came out, and it was heavily on rotation on the Sirius XM channels, like Octane and Liquid and stuff like that. That was wild. Like that, you know what I mean? It's such a it's like a weird disassociation. You just like don't believe it's happening. You're like, wait, did something I create like get to the bigger broadband part of like the radio signal? What is going on here? So yeah, it's a strange one. I'd say it's about as strange and uncomfortable as like someone getting their face tattooed on you, which I've had a few times. So you just don't believe it. You're like, is this pinch me? Is this a dream? Is this actually happening? You know?
And the solo album is what caught the attention of Cradle of Filth.
Yeah, that first EP is like it kind of acted as like a resume. Um and it was like like again, it's like the proof of like you know what I mean? Like you need to have your music recorded and out there or else people can't really get to know who you are. Um, but it was if I didn't have that EP, I don't think I would have gotten into Cradle of Filth because they wouldn't have been able to see like, oh, like she's actually like a proficient. That was the word I was looking for before. Proficient
Good
pianist
word,
and
solid
writer.
word.
Yeah, that's what they say at school, right? Um, but yeah, it was, when they were looking for a new keyboardist, that was like the thing that they listened to. Like, well, she's got all the goods. She knows what she's doing. So it definitely helped. It was strange. Like that Mary and the Black Lamb album got me into this community of female singers in metal who were doing a lot of like charity work and article writing and supporting other women in alternative music. And through someone in there, I got my connection to Cradle of Filth, but like it was because like the original guitarist who was hiring keyboardists and backing vocalists, like he heard that EP and he's like, yeah, no, she knows what she's doing. She could do this, which is cool.
So it's through that person that you found out that they were looking for a new member?
Yeah, it's a wild story. I mean, I feel like I've told this story so many times, but Cradle of Filth is like there's no secret. They have a long list of ex-members and are always looking for new members. And what happened was uh the guitarist had moved to Minnesota and they needed someone. My predecessor had moved on, which I was like, okay, like, it happens. I know her now. She's cool. She's still out there rocking, playing in bands, like good for her. And he had searched locally for an opera singer because I think what I was told was at the time Cradle wasn't looking for a keyboardist anymore. They were just going to put everything on the backing track and they were just going to have like kind of like what Sarah Jezebel Deva did in the band. And they'd have like a singer. And the guitarist Googled and found my friend Melissa Furlack, and she's really well known for being in the band Visions of Atlantis along their journey of finding their permanent lead singer. And she was offered the gig, but she just said, where she was at in her life, she couldn't do it. So she recommended me, and then they reached out to me, and like the rest is history. But that was wild. It just goes to show like community is everything, and like having your music recorded and out there is so important too. Not just for you, it's important for the listeners and people to have something to relate to. But, if you're wanting to move up and along in the industry, it's good to show people like what you can do.
This episode has been brought to you by the Women in the Music Industry podcast. It's hosted by music producer Rob Wells, who has worked with global superstars like Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, and Selena Gomez. Through his 1-hour interviews, he shines a spotlight on the remarkable women who are breaking barriers and making their mark in the music industry. Some of his notable guests include Morgan Lander of the multi-million selling metal band Kitty, and Pam Shane, who co-wrote Genie in a Bottle for Christina Aguilera. If you're a fan of the Joel Martin Mastery podcast, you'll love the Women in the Music Industry podcast, which is available on all platforms. Did you have to audition for them, or was your album enough for them to go, yeah, she's the one?
It was a bit of both. Like they listened to the EP and they're like, yeah, this is great. And then they asked me to do an audition tape of the song Nymphetamine. So I just sat there in my bedroom with like my camera phone and I recorded me singing and playing my own version of Nymphetamine on the piano. And they're like, yeah, she's great. Like, we'll take her, sure. Which is weird because like they're a band from the UK. Like, what business do they have hiring a Canadian? But then again, you could say that about Arch Enemy and them getting Elisa, right? It is what it is.
So you hadn't even met them and they had already said, yeah, for sure you're the person?
It was kind of like that. I mean, I had to fly out to Minnesota, which is great because I got to see and stay with my friend Mel. Um, but I went out there to meet the guitarist and we sat there for 2 hours and we went over the set and I was like, are you auditioning anyone else? Like, should I leave university? Like, what's going on here? He's like, oh no, he's like, I like you. You've got the job. And I'm like, what? So I went back to her place that night and we drank champagne till like 4 in the morning. It was great.
What was the range of emotions that moment where you found out that for sure you were going to be a part of this huge band that already had 10 albums, that had all these singles, that played massive shows, that sold millions of albums? What was that moment like?
Oh, dude, it's layered because I didn't like Cradle of Filth in high school. I heard the album Midian and I was like, this music's sick. The female singer is sick. I can't stand the lead guy's vocals. I can't. I just cannot get into this band. So I was not a fan in high school. So it was weird to be like, oh man, a band I didn't dig in high school, I'm about to join. But then when like they first reached out, I don't know how to explain this, but there was this like inner knowing that I had the gig. Like I don't know if anyone else like can relate to this or has like a similar story, but I just knew when they reached out, I was like, I've got this. Like at that time I was like really top tier on my piano playing. My voice was in like really good shape, just, going through one semester of university and getting the crap kicked out of me as a vocalist, in a good way. You had some really hard teachers. And I was like, yeah, like I've got this. I mean, like if they choose someone else, fine. But I just had a feeling. I was like, well, like, I'm like the goth chick who fits this, like the classical goth chick. It just makes sense. So I don't know. I just had like this feeling. I already had it. And then I go to Minnesota and I'm told, and it was really strange because a friend of mine who's like a brother, we were actually a bit estranged because just some mental health issues between the two of us and us clashing emotionally intensely on different opinions. We didn't talk for a while, and I like called him that night and reconnected with him because Cradle of Filth is his favorite band. And I'm like, I don't know how to tell you this, but your idol is now my boss. Like, it was just the strangest thing. It was a very interesting time for sure. It was it was crazy because we go back to manifestation, and I believe back when I was like, it was a few years prior to that. I really need to go dig it up because I actually have a manifesting vision board class coming up locally. And I made a vision board and it said, I will tour the world with a symphonic black metal band. It like said it on there because I don't know why I wanted to go towards black metal in university. I think I manifested it really quickly. Like I think it came about with under like 2 years to a year. And then there I was. It's like, well, we couldn't get, universe is like, well, we couldn't get you into Dimmu Borgir, and Behemoth isn't happening, but you can have Cradle of Filth.
What's funny is
Like,
it's so specific and there's only so many symphonic metal bands.
right. It's like, oh, I got the vampire one, which is fine. Works for the whole Morticia thing going on. Um, but yeah, that was very like I was very powerful in my manifestation back then. I'm trying to get that back. But I think it's just a bit of Delulu. Like you just blindly say, I'm gonna do this. And I think I was kind of hoping that at the time I was playing a role in a band from Quebec City called Dataling Complex, which I had mentioned before. And they were very like they're black metal and symphonic, but they're more at an industrial undertone. And I sang a lot on their recordings. And I was really hoping that they were going to pop off and we were going to do that together. But no, it turned out to be Cradle of Filth, which is wild.
Were you nervous joining a band that had that much history and success, or were you more excited knowing that you were the right person?
I think more than anything, I was just confused because like it happened so quickly and it was like it was like every day was a different emotion. I was excited. I felt like I finally established myself. I didn't really like university, so I was so stoked to quit. We were supposed to go on this first North American tour, but the Agonist was opening with Elisa, and Elisa and I were so excited to be touring together because we're homies. And then that tour got canceled due to some visa issues. So I was like all rehearsed and packed and ready to go. That North American tour got canceled. I think it was like Cradle Decapitated, The Faceless, The Agonist when Elisa was there. And then like that was like pulled away really quickly. So I spent 6 weeks in bed just watching Gem and the Holograms, again, my cartoons, because I was just like, I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm not in university. This band isn't doing anything. It was brutal. But then when it finally came time to my first tour with the band was a world tour. So we started in Latin America, South America, and then we went over to Asia and Australia. It was like the first 2, 3 months with the band, and then a few parts of Europe over that summer. It was like 2013. That's when I was just like, oh man, this is crazy. And the funny thing was is like back to what we talked about before of me being done with being in bands. I'm on the flight to my first show in Mexico and I'm just landing. I'm just seeing Mexico City and I'm landing on the plane and the first thought in my head was like, oh shit, I joined another band. Like I just got all caught up in the hype and I'm like, I don't do well in bands because, I'm meant to be a solo artist. So it was all over the place. But then I had that first show and the fans were so cool. And that first world tour really like that year, 2013 was such prolifically life-changing year. Like all the friends I made, everywhere I went, all the memories I made, they've stuck with me to this day. Like that was kind of like it was like a shedding of the old life and a beginning of a new life. And I'm very, very grateful for that. It's wild.
So when you joined, I had mentioned the band had already released 10 albums. How does one go about learning 10 albums worth of songs when joining a new band? Is there, I've interviewed all these musicians that someone joined Our Lady Peace, someone joined this band. Is
Right.
is there kind of is there kind of a method that musicians just know this is what we do when we have to learn a massive amount of songs in a short time? Like, do you start with, okay, this list of 15 songs are the ones the band will most likely play in concert. So start with those, and then every few days try to add a few extra?
It was overkill. It was overwhelming because, like, I mean, it's Cradle. I think at that point they were like 25 years into their career, something like that, 24, 25, huge catalog. They had sent me the songs that they wanted me to play live. And when I did meet with Paul and we went over the set, he told me like which parts I would be playing. So I was mainly focusing on piano, organ, harpsichord, strings. I think that was it. Everything else, like just layering the strings with a synth patch, like nothing too crazy. Um, so he kind of gave me the scope, like this is a set that we're gonna have for this year, and these are the songs that you need to go over. And I really spent like a lot of time going over and ingesting those songs. And I really, I just became numb to Danny's voice because it's not my cup of tea. Um, and I started really appreciating the catalog for what it was, especially like Dusk and Her Embrace and Cruelty and the Beast, and then just anything from Midian just made me happy because I love that album. It's my favorite Cradle album. Um, so it was cool to discover the music not from like the teenage perspective of like I only listen to the voices and that voice ain't it. It was like, oh man, there's so much more going on in this music, and I can see why the band has such hard fans of this, right? Um, but I mean, I just think like that's all I did. I quit university. I didn't have a job. I had some like, you know, some money left over from I guess you could say like the funding system for education here in Canada. And I was like, well, like, I've got to do this and I've got to make it happen. So I think it was more just like I was just like on autopilot to make it happen. I didn't really think about it too much until it was happening. Leading up to my first show with Cradle of Filth was a very long process because like they contacted me before Christmas and then they didn't confirm until after Christmas. It was like the two longest weeks of my life. I'm like, could I just be like leaving university and joining a massive band? Like, what is going on here? And then, that tour falling through. So it made things easy because like you asked, like what was it like learning that catalog? Because like the recordings were already there. I was so used to being in messy setups with bands where like you'd come in and you're making all this music together for the first time, whereas like, well, this band's been established for 25 years, so now you're like a session musician, like you're stepping in and filling in a role that's already been there. And it's crazy because like I wasn't even aware of what was to come with being compared to old members. And I just like, it's like, I understand there's a person who was in this band for a time and you really fell in love with them and you miss that. But like, it was a time of, it was my first real taste of like getting punched down on by the internet for just being yourself. And I'm like, this is stupid. But it gave me like tough skin, a hard shell at the end of the day with like internet comments. So yeah, it was just like a lot all at once. It's like I leveled up really quickly and I learned a lot really quick during that time. But it was kind of one of those things where like I can see why a lot of people would just like have a panic attack and give up and quit, but I just said like no, like you've committed to this and you have to make it work. So you're going to put in as many hours as it takes to make this happen. And that's how I made it happen.
I need to point out that it's not just that there's all these songs you have to learn, but Cradle of Filth songs are like 6 to 8 minutes long. Crazy. Some of them are crazy fast. There's tempo changes. There's time signature changes. So this is not just a huge discography to learn, but also a very difficult and challenging one.
Yeah.
Is there a single most challenging song where it's like, man, I had to just keep at it and keep at it, and then eventually everything just locked in?
I mean, luckily I had the classical training, so I was used to like odd time signatures and like ebb and flow of tempo and long pieces of music that could go on forever. I mean, I think what was it, The Queen of Winter's Throne is like 10 to 12 minutes long. That I just had to split it up in my head as three different songs and learn it that way. It's just like, oh, you get no breaks in between. They all just meld together. Good luck. I want to say I could be wrong. I will be corrected on it later if I am, but there was one song from Dusk. I want to say it was Haunted Shores, and it had like a 9/8 intro for time signature. And I was just like, it's just like, oh, this is no different than a classical piece I just studied, like whatever. So that's why I knew kind of in the sense, like, I'm like, I got the gigs. I'm a classical musician. I can really, I can handle this stuff. And there is definitely a lot of prog moments in Cradle of Filth. And I think that's why what makes Cradle so special is it's just kind of like I don't think it's great that you have a different lineup for every album, but it was new people coming in every time, painting it their way and adding something different and making it new again. So maybe that's what worked for Cradle. Um, but at the same time, it was such an experience. Like every album was such a different chapter of that band, and it's like, oh, we're gonna learn this new, like we're not new, but like we're gonna learn this song from this album. And I'm like, oh, I kind of already have like context of how that's about to go because I've learned like three songs so far. So yeah, it was really interesting.
So let's quickly dive into the two albums that you recorded with Cradle of Filth, and then we'll get back to your solo album. You have some exciting stuff that just released. You have some exciting stuff coming up, so I definitely want to get to those. So you guys released Hammer of the Witches in 2015. This is their 11th studio album. There's two singles, Right Wing of the Garden Triptych, Blackest Magic in Practice. The album charts in 11 countries, including going to number 4 in the US on the Billboard Top Hard Rock Albums. Man, what's it like to, I guess, that first taste of an album that releases that just has this global reach?
It was it was ooh, it was a lot. Um, I want to say it took about a year and a half to write and record that album, and we were all hands on deck, really into making it happen. And it meant a lot to everyone in the lineup at the time. And then at that point, we had moved over from Peaceville to Nuclear Blast Records. At that time, they had an ace team, and they were really excited and all hands on deck on like the marketing end of releasing it. So I think it leaked a week before, which the label was like, that's amazing. Like you couldn't ask for like a better leak. Like 1 week before, it's not affecting your sales or streams. Like
And it shows there's a
awesome.
big demand for it, that people are looking.
Yeah, yeah. The fact that we were able to keep it that under wraps for that long was insane during that time, because that's when like so many albums were leaking, even previously, through distributors. The wrong person gets into the wrong hands, employee about to quit, and then it's just like game over. Uh, it was a really bittersweet experience for me because, we went and played Grass Pop in Belgium. I want to say end of June, July. I don't remember when that festival happens, but it's okay. And we like performed Right Wing live, and I opened it with singing and people were singing along and like knew every word. And I'm like, this is insane. And then there's a weekend where we played a festival and we were like promoting and celebrating that the new album had been released. And it was a really great weekend. And then I'm like flying back home and finding out like my mom's dad only has like 24 hours and I have to go say goodbye. And it's just like one of those like bittersweet moments in my life. Like it's always like there's this big, beautiful thing happening, but then there's also this like change, this big change happening at the same time. And I was like, I always feel like these big moments in my life are bittersweet. They're always juxtaposed. They're very emotional. I'm like, man, like, can't we spread this out? Why does it always have to happen on the same
Can't
day?
we have just one win that sits on its own?
Yeah, come on, Gramps, couldn't you have waited a week? No. But it was like it was a great time in my life, and it was a beautiful experience. It really sucked losing my grandfather because he was the last living grandparent I was super close to. But it was this time. And I just remember the pride that we had as that lineup. like how proud we were of Hammer of the Witches. And we didn't even know about the charting. I didn't know about the charting until recently when I had to do up a resume because I've been applying for, grants here in Canada, hoping somebody's like, hey, your new album's sounding great. Let's support this. And I was like, wait, did Cradle ever chart on these albums I was a part of? Because like I never heard anything. And I think at the time, it wasn't like, now everyone's like posting it on their social media and they're like, oh my God, we charted. Like it was like the label didn't say anything, post anything. The management didn't keep it on their radar. So then when I went and saw how much like Hammer of the Witches had charted, I was like, that's insane. Like I can put that on my resume. Okay. Like at this point, I only had that through Motionless in White and my contributions to their last album, and I was like, I'm so proud of this. This is sick. Like this, I am just but a little cog in that massive machine, but like, holy crap.
It's also insane because it's on an independent label and it's like it's insanely heavy music. Like it's not
Yeah.
mainstream.
No, and you could definitely hear a lot of the classical influence come back, and then like the way Richard Shaw wrote like those really intense melodic riffs, like it was really cool. It was a really cool chapter, and I think like it really resonated with a lot of people because like we intensely poured like our intention and our vision and our focus in on that album, and I think it really showed at the end of the day.
Can you remember the biggest crowd that you ever played to with Cradle of Filth? And what was it like to play to a crowd of that size?
Uh Again, I kind of I disassociate in those moments, and I think it's just like how I survive.
Oh,
Like
I
I
just
cried
blacked out. What
after.
happened?
Yeah, I was like, I gotta go do the thing. So we're not gonna feel anything about this right now. We played Vakken. I want to say this was it was 2015. We played Vakken. We opened for Judas Priest to 80,000 people. I've never looked out and I saw the sunset, but I couldn't see the horizon because it was just people's heads. I was like, oh my God, what is happening? And we went up and we played the set, and it was really great. I had a really good time. My best friend, she goes to Vakken every year. She's just coming back right now. And she found a way to like bamboozle the security guard to let her up on the the viewing part of the stage. Like she got like some VIP stuff just by being like, "That's my best friend. Look, she was my maid of honor. I want to go." Like she just liquid courage. She
Very
just went for
lax
it.
security.
Yeah, it was like, okay, like can anyone say that? Like whatever. It was so funny. She went up and then she got to high rise balcony and I remember seeing her and it was cool because like um just some side stories of that massive show we played. Um the band that won the Vakken Metal Battle that year was Vesperia from Oshawa, like my scene. So my homies were there and they won and they were watching the set. So I had people from Oshawa in the front row watching me. My best friend was there. Um, it was unbelievable. It sounded great. It looked great. There was no rain because that's a thing with that festival. And, finally when it was over and I got off stage and I guess you could say like wrapped up with the crew because just making sure everything got put away and packed properly. I came down the stairs and I saw my best friend and my friends from Oshawa and we just started crying and hugging each other because they're like, dude, you did it. Like you did the thing. I was like, I didn't think the thing was gonna be that big. Because at that point, like the first year I was with Cradle. The biggest crowd I played to that year was in Indonesia at Hammer Sonic Fest, and that was 10,000 people. But in that country, you're not allowed to like mosh, so they all just kind of stood there like with their arms crossed, looking at you, like bobbing their heads. That was the most they were allowed to express, just because of like the political and religious climate over there. And it's like this is crazy, but so interesting. And then you go to Australia right after that, and everybody's just like every show is so punk rock, and you're like, whoa, um, just night and day. So up to that point, I wasn't expecting to see something like what we had at Vakken that year. And I think yeah, that was definitely the biggest crowd I've ever played to, and that was I'm glad I'm able to compartmentalize and just like get into this focus of like you just got to go do the thing you're meant to do really really well and you can feel something about it later, probably trauma, probably being on the spectrum, but like thank God for that because I know some people, they would just be in that position of like, I can't go on stage. Like, I can't do it. I'm like, no, you can disassociate now.
The two singles for that album, this is the final question for this album, then we'll move on. The two singles had big budget music videos that each have millions of views online. What was your experience like on these big budget music videos? This is something different for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard work. It was always cold. It was the cold months of England. Communication in that camp wasn't always great, so you just kind of show up and then you're told that's what you're doing that day and you had to make it work was not good for my anxiety. They were hard work. They were really, really hard work, but they were fun. Like once you finally saw the videos and how they came together and what they look like, it was like, oh wow, this is crazy. Um, the one that was like I think the most intense music video I've ever done. It's like if I can do this music video, I can do anything, which is great because I did two music videos recently and they were a lot of work for my own stuff. But with Cradle, we went to Latvia to work with Arthur Bursink. I'm so sorry if I'm saying his name wrong. Brilliant artist. I think he still works with the band to this day. And we did the music video for Heartbreak and Seance, and that was like 20-hour days. Like we didn't get to see any of the I can't remember the capital city. It starts with an R. Riga, I think. We weren't able to see any of the city. We just woke up, ate on set, hair and makeup, acting, performing all day. Barely slept in between, and then just shipped off on our planes back to like our homelands because like we had to be in and out really quickly. That was like an excruciating experience, but that is, I think, like that to me, that's like the most beautiful Cradle of Filth music video I've had a chance to be part of. It's a piece of art. Um, it's awesome. So yeah, it was cool. I really do love making music videos when I'm not doing everything myself and I have the right team around me. But when you're just a moving part, and you don't know what's going on. It's pretty exhausting.
So Heartbreak and Seance, that's off of the next album you were a part of.
Mhm.
As you butchered the other guy's name, possibly I might butcher this album. So Cryptoriana, The Seductiveness of Decay. This comes out in 2017.
Perfect.
The other two singles are You Will Know the Lion by His Claw, which is an awesome title, and Achingly Beautiful. This album charted in 13 countries. Did you feel pressure to try to follow up the massive success of the last album?
I didn't because things were changing in the band at the time, and I didn't really have much of a big writing part in that album. I definitely wrote some stuff and presented some ideas, but they were mostly rejected because they just had an idea of what they wanted that album to be like, and I didn't have a part in it. So I just stepped away and I was like, okay, like if I'm not like I was kind of bummed and sad at the time. I think I was writing stuff very much still kind of in the vein of what like Hammer of the Witches was doing. And I think, more wanted to focus on, if I remember correctly, like the band up and the harshness of the band and the extremity of the band. And I was like, okay, like that's fine. Like you do you. So I'm not like as emotionally attached to Cryptoriana. I don't have as many like, heartfelt, cute little stories about Cryptoriana because like I wasn't as attached to that album. It was like a might have to do with some trauma. It was a lot of rejection on that album for me. So I just let it be what it was. But like, hey, I got to still come in and like narrate some stuff and like I came in with a crayon and drew in a little piece of Lindsay here and there, but it's very sparse. Um, so, it's a cool album. I barely remember some of the songs. I know it had a 10-minute long one on there for some reason, typical Cradle style of doing things. Um, but yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, I can't even compare it to anything else I've been on because it was just more of like, yeah, I'm in this band, but like I'm not really part of this new album. And that's okay because I think that happens, you know, album year by year. Sometimes certain band members are just like left out of the process and they're like, I was trying to contribute, but what I was bringing to the table is not what the direction of that album was. And we as creative, sensitive creatives, we take it so personally, but I don't think it's personal. I just think it's like what the collective wants at the time, and that's like totally okay.
In February 2020, you leave Cradle of Filth after 7 years with the band. That brings us to part two
Yeah.
of your solo career. While you were with Cradle of Filth, you released some singles. You released the EP, The Dead of Winter, in 2015. What can you share? There's a reason why it's called The Dead of Winter.
Yeah. It was all written in the dead of winter. It's all wintry songs.
Were you in like a Christmas spirit? What's going on there?
Oh God, no, I can't stand Christmas music. And I think like, the teachers in the schools I've been to, there's such an emphasis on uh I don't know, the typical North American like Christmas music, which is just all stolen from like old pagan worship songs from Eastern Europe, which is hilarious. Um I just, yeah, I was not, it wasn't that. It was more just like everything I'm writing right now is very cold and it's very inspired by winter. Cause like usually it's strange. With every season, I do feel this like burst to create, usually around the equinoxes or solstices. You know what I mean? So this one was like very much birthed during that time. I'd say I wrote it in like January and then recorded it and released it in like March of that year, 2015, I want to say. I also did a cover of Madonna's Frozen on there. So it all just tied in. It was all like cold winter themed stuff. And yeah, it was really, really demanding being Cradle of Filth. And I'm an album artist, but sometimes I just get inspired and I was able to like squeeze out like a few songs here and there. So that's like why that one came to be. But yeah, again, I kind of look back at it. It was like my follow-up to my EP, and I kind of look back at it and I'm like, well, again, I was trying my best at the time, but it wasn't like, me hitting my final form, so to say.
So is you hitting your final form with the release of Martyr in 2019? Would you say that's more hitting your final form?
Oh God, no. I mean, listen, I'm so proud of that album. It took me 2 years around Cradle's chaos, on and off touring and whatever else they needed from me to focus on that. Um, it was really strange because it just came at a time like when it needed to happen because I knew I wanted to do a full album. And I think the rejection, like again, no shade, but like the rejection that I had with Cryptoriana was kind of like I shouldn't be trying to force myself into a band. I should be doing my own thing. I have my own ideas, and I'm consistently inspired and making these, crusty demos at home. So I started compiling a list of like, okay, this is the stuff from the back catalog. Like I took Stranger from Mary and the Black Lamb. I took Into the Night from my first EP. I was like, I do want to recreate these. I have some ideas. And then this is crazy. Like this again will tie into the backstory of Martyr and manifesting. Um, I also had put on my vision boards that back when the lineup of Evanescence was like Amy Lee, Ben Moody, Rocky Gray, John LeCompte, I said like I wanted to do a song with those people. And I always thought it would be Amy or Ben. It has been, and that's totally okay. Uh, but something I always had John LeCompte on Facebook. He added me, thought I was cool. We chatted. He started a beard oil company. I ordered a bunch once a year for Christmas for all the beardy men in my life. And we stayed in touch and I know his wife too. She's mad cool. So I was like, this is cool. I'm like in touch with one of the original members of the lineup that just inspired the crap out of me. And he's written like Taking Over Me. He's written All That I'm Living For. Like he's a great songwriter and singer and guitarist. So it was crazy. It was just like in January, I think of 2016, and a photo comes up that John is tagged in, but it also has like Rocky and Ben tagged in it. It was like a photo from back in the day. So my cheeky little ass at that point, I was like, do what I want. That was kind of like my motto at the time. You shouldn't always do what you want. I've learned that the hard way, but like that confidence of like, what do I got to lose? Like sending this person a friend request on Facebook. So I sent a friend request to Ben and Rocky, and Ben never added me, and that's totally fine. But Rocky immediately like DM'd me and said like, "How did you find me?" I was like, big fan of your music, dude." He's like, "Oh, that's so cool." He's like, "I'm a huge fan of Cradle of Filth," and I'm like, "Oh, sick." And he's like, I was like, "Dude, like." I don't think you realize like how important you are like to what you've done with music, you know. At that point you're in like a multi-platinum album. I think it went diamond like a little while back. I'm like, you're a big deal, dude. Like you have Grammy wins to your name as a drummer and composer and everything. So we were just chatting it up and he suggested, I think I know We Are the Fallen was in a transition at that time, which is like, for anyone who knows, We Are the Fallen is like all the members of Evanescence during that big time, but they got back together with an American Idol finalist, uh, Carly. Oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on her last name. Smithson, I want to say. So like I know that they at that point were working on some new stuff, but he just threw it out there. He's like, "Hey, like, do you want to work on music together?" And it was really strange because like I was driving and I was looking at my GPS and that notification came up and I caught it out of the corner of my eye and had like pull over my car and like read it. And I was like, I cannot believe this is happening right now. And I was like, where do you want to start? So we started with our cover of The Cure's Lullaby, and it went really, really well. And I was like, okay, well, like let's do some original stuff. So he had sent me some leftover demos from We Are the Fallen, which was songs that turned into See the Light, Dangerous Game, and Savior. And we just it just happened so quickly. Like we worked on two songs at a time, and then 2 years later we were like 20 songs in, and I'm like, dude, I think we need to cap this. Like we gotta like we have an album here. We almost have two albums. Like we need to wrap this up, brother. But that was crazy how I said like I'm gonna write with that lineup of Evanescence, and I ended up with Rocky because he's a dear friend. He's still contributing compositions to my music to this day. And yeah, it was wild. It's cool to look back on all this stuff because I feel recently like I've lost a lot of my magic, but sometimes you just get to a point where you're like, well, you have all you'll ever need in life. So like, why bring in more when everything you have is more than enough? So that was wild. I really love Rocky. He's a great person. He's a lovely person. He's a great writer, and he pushed me to be the producer and songwriter I am today. He was very gentle in telling me when something wasn't good. Which, like, as you know from like my high school experience and trusting authority, um, that wasn't always my experience. But I think also because he's a dad, I find it's always in this industry, it's the men who are married with kids, like they've been in these long committed marriages with this family. They're great because like they just know how to be gentle and committed. And I love that about them. And I see it and I'm like, oh, like, I feel like this father-daughter moment going on here. And because he has a daughter too. And I really appreciated that. So, I look back on Martyr and I'm like, that was me again, evolving, changing titles, growing, learning. And I put everything into that album. Like I obsessed over those songs for years. Yeah, and I don't think it's final form, but I think it's pretty close. Even the new album I'm doing, I don't know.
Might not be final form, but you definitely leveled up with it.
Thank
Savior
you.
is your most popular song on Spotify. It's about to cross 1 million plays, which is insane.
Crazy.
Why do you think people love that song so much?
When when the song's a hit, like And he sent me that demo and I heard that riff. It was just the riff and the verse and the chorus. And I told him, like, he sent it to me, and I was like, "This is it. This is it." He's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "No, this is it." And I had a whole idea. I cut up the demo on my crappy laptop that I still demo on to this day, and I like made as much of a full form song as I could, and I wrote like all those lyrics and vocals you hear. I wrote them in one day, and and I sent it back to him and he's like, "Oh, okay. I see what you said. This was the song." He's like, "You had this idea of like this is where the melodies were going." And I was inspired in the moment based on the experience I was going through that was emulated in that song. So when you just you're given a good riff, you're like, people are gonna bop to this, and then I'm like, oh, but like, just wait, I have the vocal melody and lyrics and idea that's gonna go over top of this. So yeah, I just knew that was the single. I knew that was the song. I'd show people the album, and when they heard Savior, they're like, yeah, that's your first single. Like, you have to do a music video for it. You'd be silly not to.
The album gets nominated for a Juno, which is Canada's Grammys, in the category of metal slash hard rock album of the year. What does that Juno nomination mean to you? This is your country acknowledging your music, your talent, your dedication, your hard work.
Oh my God. I mean, it was everything at the time. Honestly, Joel, it was like a really hard time. I was actually thinking of leaving music because um it was nominated in 2020 and I released the album in 2019. And like I mentioned earlier, like before we hopped into this, there was a year-long process of the album getting delayed because I was being like hummed and hawed at by labels and just like, this needs to stop. I know I can release this independently and it'll be okay. And at that point, when the nomination came out, I had left Cradle of Filth, but it wasn't public knowledge. I unfortunately handed over my business to some people who did not take good care of it, and I was scrambling to do admin work to save myself certain deals that were put into place that were way overdue and not taken care of. I was like so spread thin and just dried out. I was like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. Like and it was weird because we were getting offers. Like 2020 took away everything, but we were getting offers in like Australia and South America, and there was other bands talking of bringing us out to like, North American tours and Europe. So I was like maybe, I don't know. I was just, that January was so hard, and they always announced the Juno nominations at the end of January usually. Back then they did anyways. And I had submitted it, but I just didn't think about it. It was like kind of like, you have to do what you have to do and you don't really think twice about it. You're like, okay, like I did the thing, I submitted it, we'll see what happens.
Especially as an
So,
independent artist as well, right? The focus is
yeah,
generally on artists that are with the major labels. Like the awards are originally constructed by labels to sell more records in the early months of the year where nobody's buying albums because they spent all their money on around Christmas. So
right.
it's like the whole point of the awards originally is to sell more product from the major labels. So for you to submit as an independent art, completely independent, you wouldn't even think that you would get a nomination.
Well, that's the thing. I wasn't expecting it. I just submitted it and forgot about it and didn't pay attention because I was just in such a slump at the time. I didn't pay attention to when they were announcing it or anything. So then it was kind of a beautiful moment. I've told this story a million times, but like my parents were giving me their old beater car. They're like, here, have a car because your van just died a horrible death. Because it did. It was like from one of those like old Nissan Mercuries from like 98. Like it still had a cassette player in it and it just died a death. It was an old car, old van, my band van. And they were like, we went to I guess you could say the DMV, and we're just, transferring over the ownership. My phone starts blowing up. I'm seeing all these notifications come in like, oh my God, congratulations. Like people from high school I haven't heard of from in years. And I'm like, what is going on? So then the first person who I'm like the closest to, who's the most sound of mind, who's going to be able to explain this to me was Simon McKay from The Agonist. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, dude, we both got nominated for Junos. And I'm like, excuse me? Excusez-moi. So like I go search for the website, I look on the socials, and it's true. I was nominated with like so many cool bands that year. And I just start crying, and then my parents are like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I've been nominated for Juno. So they start crying. We're all hugging in the DMV, and then the person transferring the ownership like comes up behind the counter, and she's like, oh my God, my son's a musician, I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, I
And then
can't
she
handle this
starts
moment.
crying, and then
Yeah,
everyone's in a
it was a
glass case
lot.
of emotion.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember calling my partner at the time and I told him and he's like, "Well, that was a big change considering like what you were talking about this week about everything going wrong and wanting to leave the music industry." And I'm like, "I know. I just don't know what's going on right now." So, it was nice that I got to celebrate that moment with my parents. And I mean, like a nomination is enough. I already feel like getting that recognition is enough. It wasn't for me, it wasn't about winning. It was just like cool, I got recognized. But a lot of people are like, yeah, like you're the first female solo artist. It's on your first album. Like that was insane. I was like, I don't know. Like everyone else is paying attention to details. I'm like, I just make music, guys. So
One great thing, even about being nominated, is just like my introduction for this interview. It's Juno nominated singer-songwriter. That's always with you, which is awesome. And
yeah,
to point back to where you're like, man, anytime something good happens, something equally bad happens, the only way to follow up a Juno nomination is with a global pandemic 2 months
of
later.
course. Yeah, yeah, of course. That was brutal. We actually were in the air.
Wait, is the
Mhm.
whole world, do we have you to blame for a global pandemic?
Actually,
If you
yeah,
don't get nominated for a Juno nomination, is there no global pandemic? What do you think?
I have one of my guitarist friends that I'm in Antigua with. We can talk about that project later. We joke all the time that my witchcraft was so strong. I said I didn't want to do music anymore and I brought on the global pandemic. It's just a joke. Uh yeah, it was a bummer. Like dark ages for sure. The dandy pandy. But I don't know, blame me if you want, whatever. We can blame it on so many things. Uh we found out like that the Junos were canceled the minute we landed in Saskatoon. It was supposed to be there that year. And then we went home and everyone, it was locked down. It was like, oh, it'll only be 2 weeks. Everyone knows the script. I'm not going through that again. We're all done with it. It's been five
Two
years. We
years
got to let it
later,
go.
I'm still trying to go out and buy some chairs for my new apartment. Yeah, it didn't last two
I know.
weeks at all.
Right? It's like, what? So, what was I gonna say? Yeah. So that I didn't even get to go, but I got to go was it last year? Yeah, I got to go last year with Audio Technica. So like I still got to experience it just like on a different timeline. Yeah. So that was wild. And it's crazy. The thing with awards is like not really much comes of these awards. You get these awards, it doesn't grow your fan base, it doesn't change too much. Life kind of just still goes on. It's nice to be acknowledged, but I think with like the transition of the past 5 years, I don't actually value like I'm grateful and appreciative, but I don't value awards anymore. I value my time and who I spend it with and how we spend it and having that energy to create new things. I think that's the most important thing. Like so many people can get wrapped up in all the details of the industry, but like at the end of the day, it's like, okay, but like, are you healthy and are you able to make the music that you want to make? I think that's like the most important thing. So I'm like, oh my God, you're Juno nominated. And I'm like, yeah, like it's cool, but like it's just like it's not everything, guys. So
During the pandemic, you released the album Worlds Away in 2020. Did it feel cathartic doing something positive during such dark and uncertain times?
well, I think it was just kind of like the awkwardness of like, okay, I was supposed to do these tours. I was supposed to go to the Juno ceremony. Like we had this whole plan for 2020 and it just got completely ripped away from us and I couldn't work. So it's like, well, like, what the hell do I do? Like, I can't just, and at that point, I wasn't fully sober. I was like, I need something to keep me away from drinking. Like, that's not going to do any good for anyone. So immediately I was like, well, at the end of the year, it's my 10-year anniversary of being a solo artist, and I have quite the catalog now. So, like, let's just, like, I love MTV Unplugged and the Tiny Desks now. I love that shit. So, let's just do a stripped down album of everything on harp with, like, some beats and some strings, very Bjork architect of how she does her music, not as weird as Bjork, and just, like, release, like a soul, like just, like, 10-year celebration of my music, kind of like a greatest hits, but not really. So, sorry, I'm gonna ask my partner to grab me some water. I am drying up like a beached whale. He just has to go grab my water for
Talking
me.
for 2 hours is no easy task.
Oh man, you're putting me through it.
Just a few more minutes. We're almost done. You
It's
can do
okay.
it.
No, 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 it's okay. We can do it. We can do it. Yeah, I just don't want to keep coughing through the next half of this. And it might also be my allergies. But it happened very quickly and it was done very quickly. And it was like I think I took like 2 weeks to pick the songs, arrange them, write all the harp parts, and then immediately I was just like already on my engineer at the time, Tyler. I was already on his ass. Like, I need studio time these days. I need Yuma for mixing at this time. It came about like very quickly. And of course, like it was awesome because I got Rocky in to do the beats on some of the songs that he written the rock versions of, obviously. Oh, my dear partner, best human. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank you, human.
thank you. He's the best. Mm.
Sweet, sweet
And I brought
H2O.
Oh my gosh, hydration, man. So what was I gonna say? And then I got Spencer Creek, my orchestral guy. He came in, he did some strings. So I kind of got the team back. It was a little more concentrated. It was like a small project, but I'm glad I did it when I did. We had a really successful crowdfunding on that. And people said they really like needed that album during that time. They just needed some soft, calming music to chill out to. And surprisingly, side note, that album Worlds Away, so many of my friends with kids are like, I play that album to like get my kids to go to sleep. I'm like, did I write children's music by accident? What happened?
Maybe that's a lucrative side hustle.
I've seen what Walk Off the Earth has done with their kids. I mean, I think so too, but like not really. I don't, again, I'm here to make music for the baddies and the saddies, not kids.
But Walk Off the Earth actually likes kids, and we do not. So
Yeah, exactly. I'm not, listen, I love Sarah and I'm proud of her and everything she's done, but like Walk Off the Earth is not my cup of tea. It's a good cup of tea. It's just not my cup of tea.
we mentioned that your country acknowledged your talents and your hard work with the Juno Award nomination. Your city also acknowledged your talents with the Oshawa Music Awards for Artist of the Year in 2021 and 2022, and then Music Producer of the Year in 2023. What did those mean to you?
That was wild. I mean, Artist of the Year is very, very cool. And I was like, thanks, guys. That's sick. But the Producer of the Year one was like the big one for me because I don't even know how to say this. Like, I didn't really realize I was a producer until it was too late. And unfortunately, my engineers took my credits and I was like, that's not okay. But it's just really not talked about. And of course, like, if an engineer is being labeled as a producer, of course they're going to take that title because being a producer is like a very prolific and hard job when it comes to making music. So when I finally like established like no, I am a producer in the traditional sense. I have a very basic understanding of engineering and mixing, but I can get the job done. But I hire other people because I shouldn't be doing everything. My brain is going to explode. Why try to do something when you're at it when you can hire in the experts who are going to just make you shine? You need a good team around you. So I had submitted that year not expecting anything and then like it came up and I was like that's crazy but there's way more talented people in this category like I don't think I'm gonna get it and then they announced it and I was like oh my God. That one meant the most to me and I talked about it with not long after I met up with Cannibal Corpse and I spoke with Eric Rattan who's a very profound producer in heavy metal. We had a long talk about it. He's great. Such a cool guy. So many cool stories. Like I can learn so much from him. And he's like, no, he's like, you are a music producer in the traditional sense. And even, Eric has a lot of integrity. He would tell me stories where he was just the engineer on the project and he did not want the producer title because he's like, I didn't do anything here but like show up, set up, and hit record. That production was all you guys, and I'm like, I respect that you can do that because like there are so many people who want to steal that production credit when it's like you just did the engineering, bro. Like, so yeah, that one meant a lot. That was a big night. It was a big deal. I was really stoked on that one.
So we've made it all the way to your newest single, Lighthouse, that was released just in the last month or so. The music video already has over 100,000 views. You just dropped this video. So how has the response been so far for the song and the video?
You know what? It's overwhelming because I kind of went into this with no expectations. Due to the dark ages of the pandemic, I had to go back to doing a day job. So it took me 2.5 years to like get out my first single, which people won't have to wait that long again. That's not going to happen. But I just was like, okay, well, you know what? this is being released. And sorry, I just gotta, there's some noise going on in the apartment here and it's distracting me. Um, I can hear something coming from the other room and now I can't think. It's been 2 hours, Joel. My attention
We're
is being
almost at the
divided. I'm
finish line.
losing steam.
We're
Where
almost
were
there.
we? So, what was I gonna say?
You said you had to get a
It
job during the pandemic, and it
I
took two and a
did.
half years for the single.
And yeah, and it was due to like I had this vision of this underwater music video that went along with this song. This song turned into such an extension of an extension of an extension of art projects because it's like, okay, we have the song. Rocky was a big part. Rocky and his friend Brian, who are like, big contributors to the rock band end of my music. They had a contribution to this. So we wrote the song together and then I wrote the lyrics and I'm like, well, these lyrics are personal, but I feel like a nautical theme going on here with a quote unquote mermaid water siren. And then the lyrics inspired a short story, which is printed with the CD. And then the short story inspired the music video. And I'm like, well, it has to be underwater. If it's not underwater, like, what am I doing? But underwater filmography or cinematography is like really difficult. And I didn't realize like the level of like challenge I was putting myself through. I'm never doing it again. You like, unless like the circumstances are like X, Y, and Z, it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It was so frustrating. But we did it. And I think that that's why the response has been so big because we did something like I don't really know of any other metal bands doing like a whole acting sequence underwater like that. Like I've seen it in music videos here and there and they're looking pretty and ethereal and cool, but like to actually like lip sync underwater and act out this whole performance underwater, it's like I caramba, like it was a lot. So I think people dig the song. A lot of people bought merch. They love the merch. I put so much because so much time had passed and I waited so long to do it my way. I had so much time to put so much detail and like to everything with it. So I think that's why coming back to it, a lot of people responded the way they did to it.
Man, that song sounds so good with a
Thank you.
good pair of headphones on. I've actually had the guitar riff going into the chorus. So there's, the pre-chorus, it gets a little quieter and melodic, and then it just explodes with the guitar riff into the chorus and it gets heavy. Man, when it explodes, I've had that chorus drop with the guitar riff and the vocal stuck in my head for the last week. Like I just keep singing that vocal melody and I keep hearing it. Can you touch on what makes it that song just sounds so great sonically? So I don't know if you can give credit to an actual engineer or the mixing
Yeah.
or
I mean, Rocky and Brian wrote that guitar. So like that's all them. That's like what a diamond record talent will do for your music. Um So there was that, but also like it's no secret now, but my current co-producer and engineer is JD, and he used to be in the band Ice Nine Kills. He's best known for his work with Motionless in White. So obviously Chris Motionless hooked me up with this awesome person. But I think that JD is a big part of like the sound moving forward and just like his level of engineering and mixing is like top notch, next level. I mean, he has so many radio rock songs and songs on the charts and it shows he has so many awards. So it was like the next thing to do is like I gotta grow and I gotta grow with someone, and at the time I was presented the opportunity, I'm like absolutely. So I mean I credit them, like yes, like there's my composing team and they've been absolutely fantastic, you know me, Rocky, Brian, Spencer, but like bringing in JD and getting him to like bring it up to that next level I think is what's done it. So moving into the next album, that's like the level of production that we're going for.
so you're about to take off for a week and a half on a writing trip, and you just mentioned something about a new album. Can you elaborate? Word on the street is there's a new album in the works for 2026. What can we tell the fans that want to know?
Well, it's pretty much done. I'm just thanks to Motionless in White, I'm just waiting to get in with JD. So we've had to push back my final engineering and mixing days till like way later, which is fine. There will be something next year. I'm wrapping up the final details and compositions, and then I'm waiting a while to finish it. So because of that, I have a little bit more time on my hands. I'm entitled to a vacation like everyone else. I can't like keep working every day and through all the Canadian holidays because I work from home or anything like that. So I've had this idea to write the album after the one that's being released next year because I think it's time. I'm inspired. I have a concept. They're just kind of seeping in and getting on loop in my head. And I'm like, okay, they want to be birthed. Like, I think it's time. So I'm actually taking quite a different approach to this album. And really, I think if I'm lucky and I stick to it and I'm stubborn about the right things, I think this next album will probably be like the truest form of the music I want to make. And I don't think people are expecting it because some of the biggest influences to this album is kind of everything we mentioned before, but I am a huge fan of trip hop and witch house and Middle Eastern music. And that is going to find its way into this. And it's like, I think it's just because of bands like a best example is Sleep Token. They've given us that permission to be weird. And I know the kind of music I want to make. And I will say this album that is being wrapped up right now, the one that will be out next year, was made from a place of surviving. Surviving, you know, what would the remnants of the pandemic, surviving in this economy, fighting every day to be a creative person in a world that is pretty turbulent. And I'm grateful for it and that it exists and the whole team that has come on board. Now I'm finally feel like I'm getting back to a place of thriving. And I think creating an album in a place of thriving is very, very different. There's, you're not there's a big struggle and theme in this next album. It's I don't want to give away too much too soon, but it's kind of like each song is a chapter to a struggle that so many people go through. This next one is more of like I've been through this really unique situation when it comes to relationships, and I need to write about that. And these songs are just like, let's go, Lindsay. We want to be birthed. So I'm like, okay, okay, okay. We've taken off 2 weeks. Let's do the thing. So
Sleep Token, with their newest album having debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 charts, their singles having gone to #1 on the Billboard Rock charts, and them headlining festivals, they've given everyone permission to be weird and still be one of the biggest bands in the world, which is awesome. And we've made it all the way to the final quote of the interview. This comes from Phil Anderson, who's a mixing engineer and a producer who's worked with artists like Mac Miller and Econoline Crush. And this is what Phil Anderson says. He says, her success has been a long time coming, and she's really built something of her own. She makes this look easy, but you can feel the work. The consistency in her performances is not lost on me, and I can't wait to see her live. So that's from Phil Anderson.
oh, sweet human. He actually just added me to Instagram. And I checked him out. I followed him back. And I'm like, do I know this person? But that's so nice. Thanks, Phil. I will shoot you a message on the gram after this. It's really sweet. That means a lot coming from him because he's done so much with his career.
So I have just 2 or 3 more questions. Can you handle 2 or 3? These are the deeper
Yeah.
questions, though.
Let me
Okay.
just sip some water so I don't cough through these last few.
Yeah. So when you look back on your life and your career, what are you most proud of and what are you most grateful for?
Oh boy. I have to go through the filing cabinet of everything. Mentally as is. I think I'm proud, like humble brag, I guess. Like I'm proud of the fact that I've always stick to seeing projects to the end. I know a lot of people on the spectrum and my part of the spectrum really struggle with finishing projects, and I'm stubborn and I have a lot of grit and I will see things to the end, and I'm a great project manager, hence the producer title. I'm really proud of that. I don't know where that work ethic came from, but I think there's a part of me that's just like very introspective in the sense of like regret. If I don't do this and I don't do this now, I'm going to regret it. And that's no way to live your life. I'm proud of that. I mean, what I'm most grateful for, I think, is the fact that like I live where I live and I'm still able to do this in some capacity, even though the past 5 years have been really tough. But also, all the friendships I guess, how do I put this? I've formed along the way. My closest friends don't live anywhere near me, and I feel like I've found people who are very similar to me. We get along, we love a conversation, we support and inspire each other, and we collaborate. Though I feel like I have kind of lost some of those connections over the past few years because we're all going through it. I know there's still love there, and if I was to tour Europe tomorrow, they'd all show up to my shows. I'm really grateful for the people I've met, the good people that I've met. And kind of grateful for the assholes I've met too, because they've made me stronger and smarter. So like,
Shout out
you
to my
gotta
haters.
my haters. I know I got haters. Like, sorry, but like, you could be a hater, but like, you made me smarter and stronger. So like, thanks. It sucked, blindsided me, but like, like with every relationship, there's some form of growth, whether it's a positive or a negative thing.
If you could sit down next to your 10-year-old self and you could whisper words of advice, taking all the life lessons, the mentorship, the experiences, the highs and lows, the successes and failures, taking everything since 10 years old, and you could whisper words in cute little Lindsay's ear to help guide her through this human experience, what do you say to her?
Ooh, that's heavy. You have permission. You have permission. Because I grew up in a very strict household of like, it had to be all approved by mom or dad. And same with the strict school system I was part of. But you have permission. Like, you can do whatever you want. Like, don't seek for the validation from other people, I think is what I would tell her. It would have solved a lot of my problems. Goddamn.
And is there anything you'd like to say to the fans that have stuck with you for the last 15 plus years?
Oh gosh, you guys rock. Like, I'm just so grateful for all of them. A lot of them are on my Patreon. They're still showing up on the shop, and I can't wait to go tour and see them from the stage, and see them all over the world. I'm really, really grateful for them. I mean, I would not be able to do this if it wasn't for them. Like, if I was going this hard for this long and I didn't have any fans, I'd be like, all right, I'm out. I'm gonna go like, become something else, corporate or work for Disney. I don't know, something. But thankfully, like the fans have been the best, like next to making the music and putting it out there, they're the best part of this experience. My fan base is just really lovely people from all walks and ages of life, and I'm so grateful for all of them.
So, as we wrap up, I want to take a moment to acknowledge you for your lifelong pursuit of mastery as a singer, as a songwriter, as a multi instrumentalist. I want to commend you for having the courage to pursue your dream and to have a big vision for your future and to work towards those goals on a daily basis. You've achieved so much and you show the rest of us musicians what's truly possible. I want to thank you for putting out great music between all the different projects you've been a part of that has become the soundtrack to the lives of people from around the world. And last but not least, I want to thank you for sitting down with me for the last 2 hours and answering all my questions. So, Lindsay, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Dude, thank you. That's so sweet of you to say. Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed this time. It's been awesome. You're a great interviewer. You're very good at what you do.
Well, thank you so much. I'll take any flattery is accepted here. So to the Lindsay Schoolcraft fans, to the Cradle of Filth fans, to the podcast fans, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Who would you like me to feature next for a 2-hour deep dive interview? You can let me know in the comments. You can also send me an email at joelmartinmastery@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me on all social media platforms at joelmartinmastery. So I am done. I am complete. I approve this message, and I'll see you on the next episode.